Thank you for tuning in to the latest edition of the 12 Kyle podcast. Whether you're listening during your commute, while working out, or just relaxing at home, we appreciate you. Every download, every listen, and every subscription means a lot. Up next, the 12 Kyle podcast.
If you're a podcast host, listen up, this one's for you. My name is Allie Jackson. I'm the host of Finding Mr. Height, a dating and relationship podcast that I've been doing for 4 years now, sharing my positive and practical approach to dating that's built on my own life experience. And I wanted to share another experience that I've had, my secret behind monetizing my show. It's called Red Circle, and I was just telling my colleague about how much I love their platform. With Red Circle, not only am I getting a seamless hosting experience, but I also love the support I receive in ad sales. It's not just typical ad sales either. It's targeted opportunities based on my show and my life. And the platform is super simple. You just set your preferences and Red Circle matches you with sponsors that align with your show. You can vet every opportunity and their platform gives you great analytics. More recently too, my Red Circle team has brought me opportunities outside of my podcast on social media to really augment the podcast partnerships, bring them full circle. I just can't recommend them enough. If you want to give it a try, go to redcircle.com to get your free trial. That's redcircle.com for a free trial.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for listening. Thank you for downloading. And thank you for subscribing to the latest edition of the 12 Kyle podcast. I am your boy, 12 Kyle. Man, check this out. On this episode, what I want to talk about is one of my favorite TV shows and a show that I think is one of the best TV shows to air on network TV during the 90s. And that is the hit TV show Martin. Simply put, folks, again, it was one of the best TV shows I think to ever be on the air. If you don't know, I will explain. Martin was a sitcom that appeared for 5 seasons on Fox TV. And it aired from August 27th, 1992 until May 1st, 1997. And again, it was the brainchild of Martin Lawrence. Martin Lawrence, as many of you know, comedian, actor extraordinaire. During its run, it was one of the highest rated shows on Fox. And it was must-see TV, at least for me and my friends, and seeming like everyone else, every Thursday at 8:30 p.m. Martin was a show that we just locked in. Martin was a show that was about Martin Payne, was a fictional character. That was his name. He was a disc jockey and he lived in Detroit, Michigan. And he lived with his girlfriend, Gina. And he worked at this fictional radio station called WZUP, AKA What's Up. And he would later become the host of a TV show called Word on the Street. But Martin was funny, man. That show, for me and my friends, again, it was must-see TV. It was something that we tried to make sure that we did not miss an episode. Because here's the thing. If you missed an episode, you better have a VCR. Because if you didn't have a VCR, of course, in the 90s, there were no DVRs or anything like that. So you had to record it. And, you didn't want to miss an episode because I'll be quite honest. If you missed an episode, odds are likely your friends and everybody else is going to be talking about that particular episode the next day or the following days. And you wanted to be in the know and in the conversation, right? You didn't want to miss Martin. But it was must-see TV for us. And it was a show that I thoroughly enjoyed. It did have its downfall as well. And I'll touch on that in just a few. But all in all, it was a great TV show. And if you've been following this podcast, you know that from time to time, I will talk about some TV shows that I grew up watching. Again, so Martin was no exception. At the time that it was on air, I was in college at the time at South Carolina State University. And, I made sure that on Thursday nights at 8:30, I was in the dorm watching Martin. I had a couple of teammates who had VCR. So even if we missed an episode, we made sure that we were going to see it. And Martin had a great cast. His cast members, obviously Martin Lawrence was the star. Then his girlfriend, Gina Payne, or Gina, her original name was Gina Waters. They eventually got married, played by Tisha Campbell. Then you had Tachina Arnold, who starred as Pam, which was um, Gina's best friend. You had Martin's homeboys, Carl Anthony Payne, aka Cole Brown, and Tommy Strong, Martin's other homeboy, played by Thomas Michael Ford. Now, the interesting thing about each of them, they all had their own quirks. Like Pam and Martin, even though Gina was Pam's best friend, Pam and Martin didn't like each other. So they were constantly telling jokes and snapping on each other every single time they were on camera. So that was always funny. Cole was, again, one of Martin's childhood friends from Detroit. Cole was a dedicated and loyal friend, but he wasn't the smartest guy in the room, to say the least. But he was dedicated to Martin as a friend, and as well as Tommy. And Tommy, well, there's really not much you can say about Tommy because we don't know where Tommy worked. Tommy, the famous line is, Tommy ain't got no job. Nobody knew where Tommy worked. Tommy would always talk about where things were going on in his job or whatever, and then Martin would always reply, Tommy, you ain't got no damn job. So that was just a running joke throughout the entire series. So we never knew where Tommy worked or even if Tommy worked at all. But that cast of those, the core members of that particular sitcom, they were great together, great friendships. They had some legendary episodes. Speaking of which, Martin in its 5 years aired 132 episodes. And I'll talk about some of my favorites and least favorites in just a few. But those were the main characters. Now, there were other characters that, was on the show. For instance, there was Stan, who ran WZUP. He was played by the actor Garrett Morris. And then there was Sean, I think Sean was an engineer. He was played by John Grice. And then there were also supporting characters who made guest appearances, like Bruh Man from the fifth floor. Bro Man was played by Reginald Ballard, and comedian Tracy Morgan. I think for me, that was the first place I saw Tracy Morgan. He was in seasons 3 and 4. He was known as Hustle Man. Hustle Man would sell anything, literally and figuratively. And there were other characters, throughout the series. Now, one of the main things that I loved about this particular sitcom and Martin was Martin's ability to play other characters, much like, some of his predecessors like Flip Wilson and Richard Pryor. Martin did a lot of different characters on his show. So I'll just run down a few characters that Martin played. There was Elroy Preston, the mechanic who famously said, "Don't you know no good," and made it a song. The player, King Beef, who had a bunch of chest hair. Bob for marketing, which was a white guy that Martin played. The kung fu expert, Dragonfly Jones, who was pure comedy. Martin also played a little snot-nosed brat named Roscoe, who was always funny. But probably the most recognizable characters that Martin played was one, his Mama Payne, which was interesting because Mama Payne had a mustache. So like they did not do a lot of changing of Martin's appearance when he played Mama Payne. And Mama Payne famously did not like Gina, Martin's girlfriend. And then there was old Otis Supreme, a rich woman's lover and a poor woman's dream, as he would call himself. He was a security guard who had really bad vision, but had the strength of 10 men. And then, of course, there was Jerome, the player from the Himalayas. Jerome, man, what can I say? Jerome had some of the best lines. One of my favorite characters on Martin. And then, of course, the ever-present Shanae Jenkins. Shanae was a round-the-way fillet, as she called herself. She was a round-the-way girl, bamboo earrings, at least 2 pair. She was the epitome of ghetto fabulous. Shanae was Martin's next-door neighbor, who stole the scene several times when she was on camera. So Martin did a great job of being able to play not only himself, but these other characters as well. Um, Probably um, my favorite character on the show, outside of Martin, was definitely Jerome. Jerome, I remember he almost got into a fight with Cole one time. He went out on a date with with Pam. I'm sorry. And he was Pam. I mean, Cole was trying to protect Pam, and they almost got into a fight at Rashidi's bodega, which was pure comedy. Martin playing Jerome. Jerome again was a player. He had a gold tooth. His teeth were kind of messed up, but he had these great lines. And anytime Jerome came on the screen, I was hooked. But that was probably my favorite character on the show. Um, Least favorite character, I'd probably say my least favorite character was in season 5. Cole had a girlfriend. Her name was Shanice. I didn't like her, and the reason why I didn't like her was because like she was like super goofy, and I didn't think her character fit because like Cole was already like the goofball of the crew, and to pair Cole and this other goofy woman together, I thought it was just terrible. I didn't like it at all. And up until that point, Cole had only dated Big Shirley, and while we never saw Big Shirley's face, Big Shirley was a how can I say this, a plus size woman, to say the least. But yeah, and Cole loved big women, and so for Cole to get now this skinny goofy girl, it just didn't. I didn't like the way it was, but nonetheless, those are my favorite and probably least favorite characters. As far as episodes, man, you know what? It's easier for me to pick my least favorite episode, and what I'm about to say is going to surprise many of you probably. My least favorite episode was the episode with them being on Chilligan's Island. Um, if you remember, it's the episode where they go off on this island and Martin basically has some issues, and then he gets into it with this, I guess like a some type of animal or whatever. It's supposed to be like a chia pet or something. I don't know. But I thought like that whole episode, that scene of him, Martin, going back and forth with the animal, I thought that was so corny. I didn't like it at all. I'm sorry. It never appealed to me. I know a lot of people that love that episode. I absolutely hated that episode, and even to this day, when that episode comes on, I change the channel. I don't want to see it because Martin obviously is now, and for the last probably 10, 15 years has been in syndication. Um, but I love the show. If I had to pick a favorite episode, man, now that's tough because Martin's got a few he's got quite a few smokers that I just love. Probably my favorite episode on Martin was it's probably a tie. Uh the first one was the Players Ball episode where Jerome is in a players contest versus Huggy Bear. And if you are familiar with blaxploitation films, you know Huggy Bear was like a player, and so played by Antonio Fargas. And that episode was pure comedy. A musical guest was a young Outcast, who I think had only had Players Ball may have been their only record that they had out of at the time. But that episode was great. Pam Grier, the great Pam Grier, was on that episode. Bow-legged Lou from Full Force was in that episode. Grady, Walt, his name is Walt. What's his name? Whitman Mayo, from Sanford and Son. He was in that episode as well. Just a star-studded cast. I love that episode. Anytime that episode comes on TV, I will sit down and watch it. I just absolutely love it. Probably my second favorite was the episode that Martin and Biggie were together. Biggie Smalls, the Notorious B.I.G. The way that they made it seem was that like Biggie was himself. Are you feeling nostalgic? for the golden eras of rap and soul music? If so, tune in to the Rap Soul Podcast. We are your weekly journey through the 80s, 90s, and 2000s, spotlighting the music and the hidden gems that shaped the soundtrack of our lives. From the powerful beats to the soulful melodies, we bring you the best of the past with fresh insights and stories. Rediscover the music that defined a generation. Subscribe to the Rap Soul Podcast and enjoy the vibes. If you want a podcast where culture, conversation, and life collide, where you get insightful commentary, engaging discussions, and a fresh perspective on everything, then you need to listen to the 12 Kyle podcast. Hosted by the one and only, yours truly, 12 Kyle, a voice that you know and trust. This podcast will bring you thought-provoking moments, compelling stories, and a whole lot of fun. Whether you're a first-time listener or just tuning in, each episode promises to be something new and exciting. So sit back, relax, join 12 Kyle, myself, and my guests as we break down the world around us and give you stories that you've never heard before, from nostalgic throwbacks to everything in between. The 12 Kyle podcast is a front row seat to this conversation. Subscribe now and never miss an episode of the 12 Kyle podcast, where the vibe is always real and the discussion is always worth your time. And he and Martin grew up in the same neighborhood and they were childhood friends. And Biggie needed a singer, a backup singer for his new video or a new song or something like that. And so Biggie came to Detroit, was holding some auditions. People found out that Biggie was staying at Martin's crib and all hell broke loose. And it really broke loose between Pam and Gina because they were then battling for Biggie's attention, trying to get on. Funny episode. I didn't know, going into it, how well Biggie would do as far as an acting. I thought he did okay. I mean, it's for a rapper to play themselves. I don't think it's that hard, but I thought he did a pretty good job. But, seeing Biggie on the screen was dope. I'm a fan of Biggie's. But those are probably my two favorite, but there were so many episodes, so many great memories. I literally could probably write 10 other episodes down and tell you about, that just really just cracked me up. But those first 4 seasons, man, you'd be hard pressed to find one bad episode because Martin delivered every single week. That was one of the things that I loved about that TV show, was that each week you got something different. Each week there was something that was hilariously funny that you were going to be rolling over, talking about, and, discussing it with your peers. One of the things that I remember about Martin was like, as many of you know, I played football at South Carolina State University, and we would have these trips where we would, if we're going to, like, we're leaving Orangeburg and we're going to, let's say, DC to go play against Howard University. So we would be on the bus. And so naturally, the bus has it has TV cameras and TV monitors and stuff. And so there was a VCR placement where you could put a VCR tape in. And one day we were going to Howard, and we were supposed to be watching game film. And we were traveling at night, and somebody said, "Man, put the Martin tape in." And somebody had like mad episodes of Martin. And so they put the tape in, man, and we literally just watched Martin all the way to DC. And that was just funny. And our coach was cool with it because he was just like, everybody, you'd be hard pressed to find anybody that didn't like Martin back then. Like, sometimes people have their own preferences as to what they like or what they don't like. Martin genuinely was a loved TV show by most, at least most of the people that I know. But like, as I mentioned earlier, it did have its downfall. I think his downfall was season 5. Season 5 to me wasn't good. It wasn't good. And there was some controversy, and I'll talk about that in just a second. But I don't know if the writing was on the wall or if it had run its course, but it's really hard for me, particularly at this point, to watch any episodes from season 5. I think that Chilligan's Island episode was season 5. I'm not sure. I have no reason to go back and look at that episode, but maybe some of you can correct me if you look it up. But no, it was tough. And what happened was, as I mentioned, that you had the two stars, Martin Lawrence and Tisha Campbell, who had up until that point, at least from what we thought, had a great working relationship. Their relationship and their companionship and their love for each other really showed on camera. I mean, like the way that their dynamics were, you literally you could watch them at times and really think like they were a real couple off air. I thoroughly enjoyed watching Martin and Gina interact because there were points in time during that run of that show where their relationship kind of mirrored my relationship with my girlfriend and now wife, Sharice. And so like, it was good seeing that type of dynamic, just that level of fun, how they would play with each other, how they would, go back and forth with each other, how they would sometimes snap on each other. And then, but at the end of the day, come together and love each other and love on each other. But season 5 was the last straw. In November of 1996, Tisha Campbell, Gina, left the series during its final season. She cited intolerable working conditions. She actually filed a lawsuit against Martin and the show's producer in 1997 for sexual harassment, verbal and physical assaults. The way that they explained it during the series was that Gina was away on business. So for the first few episodes, you don't even see Gina at all. So they kind of had to write her out of the script. And so the series, that's what the explanation was, that she was out away on business, and it was a 2-part episode. And they said that she was going on a trip and everybody else was coming. But by April of 1997, she settled a lawsuit and she returned to the show for the last 2 episodes under the condition that she and Martin do not appear on camera together. They weren't on any scenes together, which we knew this was happening in real time. What that did to the show was it made the show feel weird. And again, I don't want to dismiss, because I don't know I know what we heard her charges were. And it said that the lawsuit was settled. I don't know if there was any type of money exchanged or apologies or what have you. Martin back then and even now remains very tight-lipped about what happened. Tisha Campbell, for what it's worth, doesn't talk about what happened back then. But they didn't share any scenes together. So Gina basically only appears in 2 episodes of the final season of Martin. And even that was weird because, again, we're seeing this in real time. You literally, I think the way, if I'm not mistaken, the way they wrote it in the script was like Martin was in Detroit and Gina was in LA, and they were showing different scenes of them being in LA. They were supposed to be like on the phone and stuff like that, but they were never on camera together. And so even the last episode, it was just bad. Like it was, they didn't land the plane well at all. I just remember the last episode, Martin walked over to the wall that because he was moving from Detroit to LA. He had gotten a new job or whatever, and he wrote the words "One Love" on the wall. And even Martin, if you go back and look at that episode, he looks sad. I know he's probably sad that the show ended, but the way that it ended and with the controversy and Tisha Campbell not being there on camera with him, it was just bad. Now, since then, Martin Lawrence and Tisha Campbell have reconciled and repaired their relationship, and everything seems to be cool. But it was just really sad to see the show end the way that it did, to have 4 great years and one really bad year. Like I said, it was sad. It was very disappointing as a fan. personally speaking, like I said, I don't go back and watch any of those episodes from season 5. Season 5 to me does not exist. I'm sure probably if you weren't around, you're probably asking yourself, well, why was this show popular? This show was popular because it resonated with just about everybody. Martin had a way of making people laugh. Martin had a way of making his co-workers laugh. There are several times where you can watch an episode of Martin and he'll say something to Cole or he'll say something to Gina, and you'll see them almost break character in laughter because Martin was just that funny. And sometimes, a lot of this stuff, they had a script, but they gave them the freedom to kind of move around off that script and go off script from time to time. So it was an incredible show. I love the show. I still will watch it in syndication now. Again, I will watch any episode of Martin that doesn't involve season 5. In conclusion, I think it's that show was great. I know in years past there was some talk that they would do a reboot, but I don't think it's going to happen. As many of you know, maybe you don't know, Tommy, who was played by Thomas Michael Ford, passed away in 2016. He had an aneurysm, so he passed away tragically at the age of 52. So honestly, I don't necessarily know if you do a Martin reboot, you can't do it without Tommy. I mean, like, Tommy was a key figure in that show, and Tommy had his relationship. He had his bond and his brotherhood with Cole and Martin, and then he also had Pam as his love interest at a short period of time during the show on camera, and so there was always love and respect in the crew because that's exactly what they were. They were a tight knit crew. So if you do a reboot of Martin and you got Gina, you got Cole, and you got Pam, and no Tommy, I don't know that that could be pulled off the way that you would want it to. It doesn't seem like it would be authentic. Now I know that all of the cast members said like it would be a great idea, but they've kind of moved past that, and I get it. I've moved past it as well. As much as I love, and Tommy was hilarious. He coined the phrase GTD, get the draws. So I think is that episode, that series is probably best left where it was in 1997. I don't want to see a reboot of Martin. I think we're probably doing better off just reminiscing on just how great a show it was. And again, it was must see TV. If you have not seen any episodes of Martin, do yourself a favor when you stop this recording. Go listen to Martin. Go watch Martin. Go watch a few episodes. Get some popcorn. Get some laughs. And do what Gina would always tell Martin. You go, boy. Which was another phrase. There were so many phrases in that show. But yeah, rest in peace to Thomas Michael Ford. Salute to everybody on the Martin show. I definitely appreciate it. Again, one of my favorite shows. And if you have not seen it, go watch an episode. You'll love it too. Ladies and gentlemen, that's going to do it for me. Thanks again for checking out this edition of the 12 Kyle podcast. Thank you for watching. Thank you for subscribing and downloading this episode. We are on YouTube. Make sure that you like, share, and subscribe there. We are also on all social media platforms, 12 Kyle podcast across the board. We drop new episodes here every Thursday and every Sunday at midnight. Make sure that you support our new baby. It is called the Rap Soul Podcast. The Rap Soul Podcast is a music podcast hosted by me, where we talk about music from the 80s, the 90s, and the 2000s when it comes to rap, soul, hip hop. It is the best music podcast that you've never heard, so make sure that you check it out. If you'd like to contribute to us financially, hit us up, $TWELVEKYLE. Also, we have merch. Do yourself a favor. Go into the description box, click the merch link, purchase 12 Kyle Podcast t-shirts, hoodies, as well as coffee mugs. We got it for the low. Again, ladies and gentlemen, that's going to do it for me. I am your boy, 12 Kyle. We'll catch you guys next time. 5,000. Cheer.
Thanks again for listening to this episode of the 12 Kyle Podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure that you hit the subscribe button and share this podcast with a friend who needs the 12 Kyle Podcast in their life. Every listen, every download, and every share helps us grow. Thanks for being a part of the 12 Kyle Podcast community. We appreciate your support. We will catch you next time. 5,000.
If you're a podcast host, listen up, this one's for you. My name is Allie Jackson. I'm the host of Finding Mr. Height, a dating and relationship podcast that I've been doing for 4 years now, sharing my positive and practical approach to dating that's built on my own life experience. And I wanted to share another experience that I've had, my secret behind monetizing my show. It's called Red Circle, and I was just telling my colleague about how much I love their platform. With Red Circle, not only am I getting a seamless hosting experience, but I also love the support I receive in ad sales. It's not just typical ad sales either. It's targeted opportunities based on my show and my life. And the platform is super simple. You just set your preferences and Red Circle matches you with sponsors that align with your show. You can vet every opportunity and their platform gives you great analytics. More recently too, my Red Circle team has brought me opportunities outside of my podcast on social media to really augment the podcast partnerships, bring them full circle. I just can't recommend them enough. If you want to give it a try, go to redcircle.com to get your free trial. That's redcircle.com for a free trial.